this 2023 NFC North Player Props edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by our Patreon. Score exclusive perks, content, and contests, including our NFL win totals contest with a $1,000 prize. Join today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app to get last-minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. Use promo code SGPN for $20 off. Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Wednesday, August the 16th, currently 6:07 on the East Coast, at the midway point of our division-by-division season-long player props, the fourth of 8 divisions, and today we are going to be breaking down the NFC North division. And joining me, I got my partners in crime here with me for the Propcast. You guys know him as the voice of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, the F1 Gambling Podcast, on the NFL Gambling Podcast as well, and of course here on the Propcast. It's Rod Villagomez. Rod, how you feeling this Wednesday afternoon, brother?
We're in California. We're paying for all the rain that we got earlier this year. It is hot, literally as hell right now, over 100 degrees. Yeah, I'm good though. I'm happy. I mean, we deserve to have some sun after all that rain, but can we just dole it out a little bit? It's way too hot right now.
So your shirt is orange. That's just not you in flames right now, right?
It's literally
okay. Just making sure. And also joining us here, I got my guy here, Chris, with me. Chris, what's going on, brother? How you doing this Wednesday afternoon?
What's up? It's good to be here as always, man. Excited to kind of chop it up with you guys about the NFC North today. Hopefully we can give out some winners and kind of discuss what we like and what we don't like. Ready to get into it, man.
Yeah, man, another intriguing division here in the NFC North. Obviously, the future Hall of Famer, Aaron Rodgers is no longer in this division. He heads to the New York Jets to be the starting quarterback there, and the Jordan Love era starts for the Green Bay Packers. Detroit Lions look like they are trending in the right direction under head coach Dan Campbell and Jared Goff at the helm. A lot of great talent and speed on that roster. Justin Fields, I believe this is his third year in the National Football League, had a pretty solid year last year for the Chicago Bears. And then the Minnesota Vikings, the defending NFC North champions, with their second-year head coach and Kevin O'Connell looking to repeat as champions. A lot of great talent in this division for sure. And a lot of hopefully great player props and profitable props, I should say, we hopefully can find for you guys in this episode. So, gentlemen, let's just dive right into it. Let's get into our player props here. Chris, why don't you lead us off with your first player prop for this NFC North division?
Man, so the quarterbacks in this division is, I mean, we got a lot of, curiosity, I guess is probably the best way we could put it. We got a lot of new faces. We got some, some high projections. But so I honestly felt like I could take any of these quarterbacks. I feel like I got a pretty good read on, all of them. But I'll go with maybe the low hanging fruit, Justin Fields. A lot of people are really high on Justin Fields, and I can kind of understand, a little bit of the reason why. But I'm one to think that the numbers may be just a tad bit too high. So I'm looking at his under passing yards, 2899.5 is the number. So pretty much under 2,900 passing yards. That number was available at BetMGM -115. So you're not laying too much juice. Last season, this dude threw for just 2,219 yards. So asking him to throw for 650 more this season could be a bit of a tall task. He did only miss 2 games, but if you go look at the averages, this dude was averaging less than 175 yards per game. So I don't think those 2 games he would have eclipsed this number. You also just kind of look at their offensive line is ranked 21st. And they made changes to 4 of the 5 offensive lineman positions on the field as well. This is another guy who's going to use his feet. So if you like to play a Justin Fields, you might want to take that over on his rushing yards. That number seemed a tad bit too low, but the running, the volume of running that I think is going to be done by Mr. Fields again this season could lead to some injury as well. And I know you always talk about him, we don't want to project or predict injuries. We don't want that thing, anything like that to happen. But, when you're a running quarterback, that could also kind of lead to some injuries, some nagging injuries. And with a number this high for Justin Fields specifically, it could be, only 1 or 2 games he could go under this number as well. You also just kind of go back and look at what they did last year. And I know, some people are projecting leaps and bounds for the Bears this season, but he was the most sacked quarterback last year. And when you're changing out those offensive linemen, that doesn't bode well for the chemistry and camaraderie of the team. So you just look at the number, like I said, 145 and a half passing yards he averaged last season. He's going to have to go well over that number this season. And I think we're getting some steam on, or I think we're getting a discount on this under. So give me Justin Fields under 2,900 to 2,899 and a half, or pretty much 2,900 yards.
Yeah.
Like I said, minus 115 on BetMGM. What do you guys think about that one?
So I also took Justin Fields, and what you mentioned in your handicap is looking at the over on his rushing yards, which kind of correlates about you taking the under on his passing yards. So I actually did take his over. 800 and a half is the number for Justin Fields. And again, look, everything that you mentioned, that there's a offensive line turnover for this team. And when you have a quarterback like Justin Fields, if your first read is not there, your second read is not there, your instincts is going to be to take off, right? And we saw that a lot of times last season. And again, when he did take off, there were moments where he gained, sometimes anywhere from 15, 20 to 25 yards at a time. I mean, there were even more rushing attempts there. He had maybe a 40 plus yards. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen every single game, but this was something that we caught onto the Propcast last season, cashing on Justin Fields rushing yards. And again, 800 and a half right now for a player that had above 1,100 rushing yards last season. When you're a rushing quarterback, it's kind of in your nature to, your instincts are still to take off. And I think that he's still going to be able to do that for this team. I agree about your under as well. I think that I know they got DJ Moore in the trade. I think that's only going to help their passing game, but I feel like this team is going to be more predicated on running the football, whether that is with Khalil Herbert or whether that is going to be behind the legs of Justin Fields. So asking for him to take a leap of that many yards in his passing game, I don't see it yet. But again, I can still get behind Justin Fields' ability to rush and accumulate yards on the ground. So I'm on the over 800 and a half rushing yards here. Rod, give us your thoughts on Justin Fields.
Yeah, and again, when you correlate that too, you talk about DJ Moore, his over under for his receiving yards is 800 and a half. I was almost tempted to take the under on that one, but I just felt like it was a little too trappy because DJ Moore could very well get 801 and kill the whole vibe. So I stayed away from that. But I agree with both of you guys on the fact that the Justin Fields passing total is just, it seems a little bit too ambitious for a team that doesn't necessarily want to probably throw the ball as much as they will be running it, especially now that their running game is solidified. So I agree with you guys on both counts. And plus we talked about too, Justin Fields rushing last season feels like an easy cash almost every single year. So, all right, I'm going to go with a different quarterback in this division. I'm going to take Jared Goff. You know me, I guess I'm just optimistic about life. I just look at the glass half full. I'm always on the overs. Jared Goff, 4,000 and a half passing yards is his passing yards total. In a season last year where they were absolutely garbage, he still got them 44 and 38, right?
Yeah.
And I don't feel like that was a team that should have had Jared Goff throwing for 4,000 yards, right? So to me, this 4,000 number is a little low. I'm going to take the over at minus 105 because even in a bad season, he was still able to get 4,400 yards, right? I still think he can get 4,100. I still think he can accidentally find his way into a 4,000 yard season. They're playing a pretty tough schedule this season as well, are the Lions, and they may end up playing from behind on a lot of these games, especially to start the season out. They may actually very well they're playing the Chiefs right out of the gate, right? They've got the Chiefs on Thursday night. You don't think they're going to have to pass to keep up with the Chiefs?
Yep.
Right out, and then they play Seattle. I know that we're not predicting Seattle to be as strong a team as they were last year, but they're still good, and they're still probably going to have to throw to keep up with Seattle. They play the Packers. I'm not sure that that's going to be as hard as it used to be to play them. But again, I mean, they've got some pretty tough schedule. They got a pretty tough schedule on their docket, and I think for them, they're going to have to be able to really just make it to where they throw the ball. I mean, I know the running is supposed to be in that identity and all that, but they're going to need to throw the ball And Jared Goff has had some pretty good games over the last season. He had 425 against the Commanders. I'm sorry, he had 234 against the Commanders, 435 total yards, but a couple of 300-yard games there late, right, against the Jaguars, against the Vikings. He does pretty well against the Vikings, and he sees them twice this year. So again, I just think the path for Jared Goff to get 4,000 yards is not that too tall of a hill for him to climb. So I'm going to go Jared Goff over 4,500 passing yards on the season.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of what you mentioned, that they are going to be playing from behind in some of these games, right? I know they have a win total, I believe it's at 9.5, if I'm not mistaken, for the Detroit Lions. But like you mentioned, week one, it's going to be against the Chiefs. That game can always turn into a shootout because we've seen historically, at least over the last two seasons, Lions, at least in week one and in week two, they play in shootouts. And again, they have a lot of talent. Number one, at the wide receiving group, we talk about Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know Jameson Williams, I believe, is going to be missing some time, but they also got Jahmyr Gibbs. That I think it's going to be a great pass catching running back for their team as well. So I think that Jared Goff is now in a good situation here with Detroit, where there's not a lot of pressure on him. Being in, I guess, a smaller market, we can say, when he was in LA and the Rams, you talk about the lights of LA and things like that. But he had a great season last year, like you mentioned it, Rod, 4,400 yards plus last season for him. 29 touchdowns at 65.1% on his completion percentage. And I think the offense is putting him in the right spots here as well. And again, this defense is projected to be not good again. When you still have Aaron Glenn calling the plays, who this defense was one of the worst last season, which again, playing from behind is going to be the key. And again, he's going to rack up the yards that way. And again, a lot of speed on this offense. So I do expect them to throw the ball a lot here. Chris, thoughts on Jared Goff at 4,500 passing yards?
Yeah, you hit on every single point. You talked about the defense, you talked about the wide receivers. I will add that they're getting Marvin Jones Jr. back, who, he's he probably won't be the old Marvin Jones Jr. before he left, but he's still going to be a weapon, I think, for this team as well. So I won't add too much more. I'll say that I think that that's a good bet as well, and I think the way Rod laid it out is perfect, right? Team playing from behind. A lot of weapons. You're in these big games against these other big quarterbacks who are going to be putting up numbers, and you're going to have to, you're going to have to put up. And a lot of the times we see it in the NFL all the time where, team fall behind and the play calling automatically changes. It's not, 60-40, pass run. It's it starts to go 65-35 or 70-30. So definitely have to keep up in this spot. And I think that's a pretty good number. I would play the over there as well.
All right, before we get over to our next round of player props for this division, let me tell everyone about the Game Time app. Look, we're approaching the NFL season. We're in the midst of MLB season as well. If you're trying to get out to some of those games before the baseball season ends, or even try to get into the some playoff games for the MLB season, or if in college football, NFL, like I mentioned, a few weeks away, and you want to get some tickets, and you don't have to, and you don't want to plan ahead of time, Game Time app is here for that. They have some great flash deals and last-minute ticket opportunities for you to get to the games. Their tickets are easy to find. And if you're not a sports fan, I know everybody's listening. Obviously, we're a sports gambling podcast network, and we talk about sports. But if you're into the comedy shows, right? If you're into theater, they also have tickets for that as well. Whatever you have going on in your area, they're easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event. And the best part I love about their app, number one, is that when you go to select your ticket, you can see the actual image of where you're going to be sitting and at that specific venue or stadium, right? And I don't think a lot of other apps do that for you. So you know exactly what you're going to be looking at when you get to the venue, when you buy these tickets. They also have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection. And again, you don't have to plan your event 3-4 months out ahead of time, because they have, like I mentioned, great deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. And if you're a last minute planner and see, your team is out there, you're free on a random weekday, you want to get out to the ballpark or your stadium or your football field, they have you covered. They have great deals for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, theater, and all that great stuff. They also guarantee the best price. So if you find tickets in the same section and the same row for less amount of money, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You get the tickets right onto your phone. You don't have to haggle through your email looking for the tickets, or even mail in hard paper tickets. No, it goes right to the app. You don't have to worry about it. You can buy the tickets in a matter of seconds. Tap the screen twice, you're all set to go. Tickets are, like I mentioned, sent directly to your phone. So make sure to download the Game Time app, create an account, and if you do so, make sure to use that promo code SGPN for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code SGPN for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices are guaranteed. All right, boys, let's get into our next round of player props here. Chris, lead us off, my man.
So I know we talked a little bit about like not knowing how to gauge some of these quarterbacks, and maybe some of them are a little overrated, a little underrated. The only time will tell us, right? But I want to target one of the wide receivers. Mr. Christian Watson is a guy that I wanted to look at. And I was looking at his yards, looking at his touchdowns, go back to his yards, go back to his touchdowns, and I end up playing the touchdowns. Over 4.5. I think it's a buy low number, right? We always talk about wanting to get some value. I think Christian Watson could go over this number. You are laying a little bit of juice. It's minus 125 over on DraftKings. There's a lot of 5.5s where you can get closer to even money. Maybe you're only laying a dime. But this dude started his rookie season a little rocky. I know people probably remember a couple big drops that he had at the beginning of the season. He really turned it around late, though. I think a lot of it is confidence. A lot of it is just being comfortable within that offense with Aaron Rodgers his last year. But this year he has Mr. Jordan Love, right? So, and I also want to just going back to the second part of the second part of his rookie year. Last 8 games of his rookie year, 523 yards and had 7 touchdowns. So over a 17-game span, he was on pace for well over 1,100 yards and 15 touchdowns. And of course, that's with Aaron Rodgers, of course. But we're just asking him for 5 this season. I think Jordan Love is an independent variable of that, of course, but 5 for a number one option. We know that Mr. Lazard left as well to go to the Jets because Aaron Rodgers wanted him to be there. You look at the Packers; they have the 8th best projected offensive line, and they are reasonably placed as far as strength of schedule. Only they're like right in the middle, 14th easiest schedule, or you could say 16th most difficult schedule. So I like that. 66 targets last season. I think that number will increase. And he played 14 games last season as well. So I think he has big playability. If he can stay healthy, bring some of that confidence that he had in his rookie year over to the second season, I think he'll be a big weapon for Mr. Love. Also, Packers GM Bryant, whatever his last name is, can't pronounce the last name, but he had a quote that I thought was pretty interesting, and I think it wasn't necessarily related to Christian Watson, but I think we would all kind of agree to this. He says, I think one thing you see in the league is very rare. Guys get shot out of a cannon winning wise. There's some great play. There's instances you see flashes, but I think most of these quarterbacks, he was talking about Jordan Love, a little bit of the time it takes them to learn how to win. And I think the same thing can be said with wide receivers as well. So for me, I think Christian Wood is being priced just a tad bit too low. The books probably don't know exactly where to put this number at. And I played the over 4.5, minus 125. So I drank a little bit of the juice over on DraftKings. But 5 touchdowns for Christian Watson seems feasible. What do you guys think about that?
Chris is ready for NBA season talking about Christian Wood.
Christian Wood looking like he might not have a job right now.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Right. I think it was that first pass of the regular season against the Minnesota Vikings where Christian Watson dropped that pass. Right. And again, but I think you nailed it, Chris. The second half of the season is where it really flourished. And maybe it takes time for some of these young receivers, especially rookie wide receivers, for them to kind of gel and get up to speed with the professional level game coming from the college ranks. And again, when we talk about last year, we talked about this at volumes at Devontae Adams' first season, not being in a Packers uniform. Aaron Rodgers was going to probably trust the guys that he most relied. That's why he brought Randall Cobb back. Like you mentioned, Allen Lazard no longer there anymore. So Christian Watson more than likely is going to be that number one guy for this Packers offense. And again, I'm expecting a good season out of Jordan Love. I mean, he's been behind Aaron Rodgers for a while now. He's had time to learn the playbook. So I think he's going to do well. And I think, like you mentioned, building off of what Christian Watson did in the second half of the season, building that and being the number one guy for this Packers offense, I think that's going to be only bode well for him. And again, a great buy low spot at over 4.5 touchdowns for this Packers team here, Rod.
Yeah, and really, who else is there? I mean, Romeo Dubs, Jaden Reed. Like it's going to be Christian Watson. It has to be Christian Watson because there's no one else. There's no tight end either. Really, that is there to bail out Jordan Love. And to you guys' point too, especially with Jordan Love, this is what we talked about. I think Munaf, me, you, and Minty about the bring along of quarterbacks. Where this is the perfect situation for Jordan. He was behind Aaron Rodgers for that long of a time. It wasn't because he wasn't talented enough to be a number one. It's just he had a Hall of Famer in front of him. It's hard to break through when you've got a guy that's going to the Hall of Fame in front of you. So now that he's gone, now this is his time to shine. So whether he uses it or not, that's up to him. But also, he's going to have a receiver to lean on. And right now, the most veteran out of those is Christian Watson.
Rod, take us to player prop number 2, my man. What do you got?
All right, well, I'm going to go to another receiver that's on a new team, and I'm going to go to DJ Moore. I was talking about his receiving yards being a little bit too trappy for me. I think his receptions is a number where I kind of want to put my bang on, and that's 62.5 is what the number is set at right now. -110. You know me, I'm taking the over on the 62.5. I'm taking the 62.5 a little bit cautiously, only because he did it 63 last season. But think about where he was at. He had Baker Mayfield. He had Sam Darnold. He had the ghost of whatever quarterback they decided to roll out in Carolina. There's just no way that a guy can flourish the way he's supposed to like that. So 63 between a skeleton crew of what they threw out in Carolina versus a solid, now he is that guy in Chicago. We don't think he's going to get a ton of yards out of it, but I feel like at least 63 receptions could be where they're at. If you think about last year, Cole Kmet was the leading receiver on this team as far as receptions were concerned with 50. Now, again, Cole Kmet's still there, but 50 receptions for Cole Kmet, 40 for Darnell Mooney, 34 for David Montgomery, who, right, is no longer there. Yeah. So you could take those away. And really, again, I think they're going to throw the ball. They may not throw it for a ton of yardage, but they're going to throw the ball, right? And so I think DJ Moore is going to be a bigger part of that offense. Their coaches believe DJ Moore is going to be a bigger part of that offense. So if you want to get that passing game ignited, you have to get DJ Moore ignited, which means you have to get him the ball, which means he's got to catch the ball. So to project him to get 12 more catches than the tight end last year, now that he's got a good, solid number one wide receiver at his disposal, I think that's not too much to ask. So 63 receptions for Darnell Mooney. I'll take that.
For DJ Moore, you mean?
Yes, DJ Moore. Yeah,
okay.
don't turn him. Yeah, Darnell Mooney won't get 62. He'll may get 6 or 3, but not 60.
I mean, look, this trade went down between the Bears and the Panthers that DJ Moore automatically, when he was part of that trade, became the number one wide receiver for that Bears offense. There's no question about that, right? And like, I don't remember the last time the Bears had a number one wide receiver. I can't even think of it off the top of my head right now.
Allen Robinson?
And again, DJ Moore has really proven himself with the Panthers, again, with all the quarterback carousel that they've been through as well. And now you're bringing him in to give a more of a, I guess, down the field threat as well, but also, you know, a legitimate option for Justin Fields in the offense. So yeah, I'm definitely along with DJ Moore. I've been a fan of DJ Moore ever since, I don't know if you guys remember the fantasy football or the fantasy, the clip between Steve Smith asking Cam Newton if he should have DJ Moore on his roster or not. I thought that was pretty hilarious. But yeah, definitely a fan of DJ Moore. I think he's going to have a big season for the Chicago Bears offense, at least making catches here. Chris, any thoughts on DJ Moore?
Not anything that you guys haven't said. The only thing I'll add is this is another offense that probably is going to be down. So they're going to be like, we don't know how I think, you know, Justin Fields can have a very, very spectacular year as far as them scoring touchdowns and him moving the ball to get yards consistently. I'm not sure about that, but I do think, like Rod said, this is your number one guy. He's probably your number 1.5 guy too. You know, probably your number 2 guy as well. So yeah, bunch of catches. You know, Justin Fields not a quarterback that takes too many shots, you know, deep down the field. It'll be a lot of receptions, like Rod said, slants, in routes, comeback, screens. I think those plays will all benefit the reception total for Mr. Moore.
Yeah, again, the point that you made that the Bears should be playing from behind in a lot of their games. All right, for my second player prop, I'll just mention the guy that Rod mentioned, Devin Montgomery, now over with the Lions in that running back group room. I'm going to take the under on his rushing yards here at 750.5. when I kind of went through the history of the Detroit Lions and their running backs, last season was the first time since the 2014 season that the Lions had a 1,000-yard rusher in Jamal Williams. Prior to that, they didn't have anybody that got over this number of 750 and a half since the 2014 season. Go back to the 2013 season, they did have a 1,000-yard rusher. I believe it was either 2012 or 2013. I'm going to give you each guys one guess on who that player was. Chris, I'll let you go first. Back in the 2012-2013 season, a running back for the Detroit Lions, I got over 1,000 yards. I don't think either of you will get this. You're probably going to be like, wow, when I mentioned this name, but I'll give you guys one guess each.
I don't even know what to do with the guess. Like, can I phone a friend? Like, Rod, you go ahead.
Rod,
You're not phoning me as the friend, right? Because I can't. I mean, why? I don't know, man. You have to tell me. I don't remember now.
Reggie Bush.
Was it Reggie Bush?
Reggie Bush.
Oh my God.
Back in, I think it was the 2013 season. But it all goes back to what Rod mentioned about Jared Goff, right? That we're going to see this team probably going to be involved in a lot of shootouts. They love passing the ball now. I think they have a great offensive system with all the weapons that they do have, right? And again, they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs in that first round for a reason. That they, I guess they saw something that they like out of the backfield for him. I know that David Montgomery has done this, and I think in 3 out of his 4 seasons at the professional level in the NFL. But I just think that based just on the history of this Detroit Lions team, that number one, they're going to have a group of running backs, a 1-2 tandem with Montgomery and Gibbs that they're already splitting carries with, and also playing from behind. I just don't think that David Montgomery is going to get those opportunities. Last year, 801 yards for David Montgomery, 5 touchdowns, 4 yards per carry. And again, he has gotten over this number in every single season, but I'm just banking on the factor that they're going to be playing from behind. He also has Jahmyr Gibbs. And again, going back to the 2020 season, he played in 15 out of the 17 games. 2021, 13 out of the 17 games. Last year, he did play in 16 out of 17 games. And again, that injury factor is always there with him. But just, again, like I mentioned, splitting the carries with Gibbs and also possibly playing from behind, I just don't think that he's going to be able to get over this number of 750 and a half here. Chris, any thoughts on David Montgomery?
I would say I can only agree. The one thing you mentioned when you first started, Munaf, was running back committee. And Rod already mentioned how I think we all agree that, this is a team that is going to be relying on Jared Goff more than they're going to be relying on this, this running back committee. Not to say that they won't be, but whenever you have a running back committee, you're also already splitting up the duties. So I like that you can get the number. Like if this number was like 550, I'd be like, I'm not 100% sure. But what did you say you get it at?
750 and a half.
750 and a half is, that's almost, what it is, like QB1. And then we know what's been going on with the running back position over the offseason as well. It just seems like they are not valued as much, right? We're seeing a lot more passing in today's NFL, which I think is very similar to what we're seeing in the NBA with the 3-point shot, right? Just let's see how many points we can score. Let's make the game as entertaining as possible. I would only be able to agree with that,
Yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs has a total right now set at 590 and a half for the upcoming season. Rod, any thoughts on David Montgomery?
Yeah, and it's frustrating because now you're seeing the trend of multiple running backs, exactly like you said, and the Lions are very much one of those teams now that will just roll out a running back for the situation. So it's very hard to count on a running back one unless you are a Christian McCaffrey and that and even still Elijah Mitchell is in the weeds in that offense too. So these true RB ones anymore, unless you're Derrick Henry, then you're really in control. But other than that, it's hard.
All right, before we get over to our last round of player props, let me tell everyone about the Sports Gambling Podcast Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon to get access to exclusive contests, including the NFL Win Totals contest with a $1,000 first place prize. Besides season-long contests, they also have weekly contests just for patrons, plus a monthly SGP Stories podcast, completely ad-free and full of behind-the-scenes stories from SGPN. There's even a Discord channel just for patrons. Only you can prevent corporate gambling. Do your part. Sign up today. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. Again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, gentlemen, last round of player props here. Rod, lead us off, my man. What do you got for your last player prop?
I'm going defense. I am going to take Harrison Smith, the defender out of Minnesota Vikings. I like his interception number so doggone low right now. They've got him at 3.5 interceptions total at plus 130. Harrison Smith, we all know, is an absolute beast. He has been one of the better defenders out there in his career. As far as interceptions go, he's been very good in his career. Last season, he had 5 for Minnesota. The year before that, he only had 1, but the year before that, 5, 3, 3, 5 since 2012. He's been an interception machine, or 2017 rather. Sorry, my glasses need a new prescription. But he's been a damn good defender, right? And has had at least 3 in all but one of the seasons since 2017. He's just one of those guys that continually finds the ball. He's in the right spot at the right time every single time. He's got now in his division Jordan Love, right, who he sees twice. Who knows what that could yield, because Jordan Love doesn't have a whole lot of against him. Justin Fields, right, who throws some interceptions as well. I mean, this is a very Jared Goff. We know Jared Goff is prone to throw an interception or 2 or 4. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a very favorable quarterback stable there in his division. So I think he's going to be able to take advantage of that. And Jordan Love alone, I think he can find a way to pick him off a couple of times over the course of the season. So all he has to do then is pick off 2 more quarterbacks in the entire season and cash this bet. You could be looking at week 8, week 9, having this bet cash for you. So I'm very high on Harrison Smith this season as far as being able to get to 4 interceptions on the season.
He's a ball hawk. I mean, that's the thing about Harrison Smith. The only concern I would have about it, held is sometimes a concern with Harrison Smith. But again, at a number of 4, like you mentioned, if he plays in 14 of the 17 games or even 13 of the 17 games, I think that, again, in a division, especially like you mentioned, the quarterbacks that are young, Jared Goff tends to throw turnovers as well, or interceptions as well. Historically in his career, I know last season he did a pretty good job protecting the football, but again, you still have the options outside the division as well for Harrison Smith here. Chris, any thoughts on that?
I think you guys nailed it. The one thing I'll add is just situationally, right? The Vikings were one of those teams last year, very weird team that would jump out on you early, 14-3, 14-0. So a lot of teams were playing from behind. And then when playing from behind, you have to throw the ball more. So situationally, that leads to a lot more opportunities for Mr. Smith to be able to go out there and, ball hawk, like you said, and go out there and grab those receptions. So yeah, that's all I'll add. I think it's a pretty good number. You're definitely getting a buy low spot. Shout out to Rod for digging through the weeds to find something like that.
All right, Chris, take us over to your last player problem, man. What do you got?
All right, cool. So this time I'm going to, and this we may have some agreement. I don't know if you guys are going to agree with this one, but I'm going to, we can call him Old Faithful. We can call him Mr. Reliable. We actually call him Young Faithful because the guy's still only 24 years old. Justin Jefferson. I'm taking this over. This guy, you on it? You on the train?
I got the same one. That's my last one. So take it away, Chris.
I know we talk about some of these numbers being a tad bit too high, and we want to buy low. We don't necessarily want to buy too high. But I saw that 13.50.5, and I said, man, and it was pretty much even money. I'm only laying a dime. It's -110 over on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So just recently, when you think about what's happened since last year, and let's talk about last year. Last year, Minnesota finished 4th in receiving yards. This guy is super durable. He's only missed 1 game in his 3 years of his career. Yeah. Kirk Cousins may be the greatest regular season quarterback that we've ever seen with our own 2 eyes, right? Like, he's going to chuck that ball down the field. We just talked about it with Rod's play on the reception, on the interceptions for Mr. Smith. I love that he led the league in receptions last year, 184. I talked about how young he is, still only 24. I don't think that losing Thielen is the greatest thing that could happen for him to go over this prop. I think Thielen has 70 receptions himself last year. So I don't necessarily like that, but they did pick up, wide receiver. They got Jordan Addison in the draft. And so I think, it kind of not really balances it out, but Thielen was on a downswing in his career. I think so, at least. this offensive per line projecting also kind of helps with this as well, because they're bringing back each one of their starters. And also this team just lost Dalvin Cook as well. So I think they rely even more on, Justin Jefferson in this spot. So I won't, that's what I kind of had in my notes. If I could talk for another 5 minutes, but I just think this guy is extremely durable. I think this number is a tad bit too low, even though it is 1,350 yards. That's a lot of yards, but he's over this in every year in his career so far. And I mean, what if he has 200 receptions this year? Like, that's going to be crazy, right? Minnesota's a top, a pass heavy, offense. So I like Justin Jefferson to go over the 1,350 and a half, minus 110 over on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to add. I mean, you nailed it, right? He's only missed one game in his entire career for the Minnesota Vikings. He's gone over this projection every single one of his seasons thus far in his career. And again, he has that ability to get to 2,000 receiving yards. He's just that type of player. When we talk about fantasy football drafts, a lot of times, or this season, almost seems like he's almost in that top 1, 2, 3 picks just because of how good he is. And again, he racks up the yardage. The touchdowns are there for him as well. He's a great down the field threat. He just makes incredible catches. He has great hands. I mean, I didn't have much more to add. Again, like, I agree with you, Chris. It was just that the number was just too low, especially for a guy that's gotten 1,800 plus yards over the last 2 seasons, I believe. So yeah, I'm with you. Justin Jefferson was my last one as well, over 1,350 and a half for his receiving yards for the upcoming season here. Rod, any thoughts on JJ?
He's a beast. I mean, again, if the guy's done it every single year of his career and the quarterback's still the same and the situation is, I mean, you can argue it's even a little better this year for him. Yeah. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I think the sky's the limit. I think we're going to see, if you didn't draft him in fantasy, you're going to be hurting, or you're going to be trying to put together a very lucrative trade early on before he blows up to grab him if you want him.
All right, that was our last round of player props for the NFC North division. One order of business left before we get out of here. Rod, Chris, best bets time for this division. Rod, why don't you lead us off, my man?
I'm going to go with my Harrison Smith over 3.5 interceptions. I feel like that's a low enough number that, like I said, you could be eating steak by week 7 on this one if he decides he wants to get jumping. He's even got the Chiefs too. Patrick Mahomes threw 12 interceptions last year because Patrick Mahomes tries to do magical stuff and sometimes it doesn't work. So plus 130 on that one. So yeah, I like the plus money bet for the cash.
All right, Chris, best bet for the NFC North.
So best price, I think, is Mr. Jefferson at the minus 110. But honestly, I think it's Christian Watson. I really like him. Yeah. I know you're laying a little bit of juice, and if you want to take the 5.5, I can't talk you off of that either. But I like the 4.5. I just think that, Jordan Love is somebody we don't necessarily know, but we could be doing this podcast next season and thinking to ourselves, man, that was an extremely low number. Yeah. I can't believe this guy had 9 touchdowns and that number was sitting at 4.5. And Chris was a chicken. He was scared to take the 5.5. Right. So I just think that there's a tremendous upside, to Christian Watson in this spot. So give me the Christian Watson over 4.5 for the Green Bay Packers at minus 125. I'll drink the juice on this one on DK.
All right, my best bet, I'm going to go with Justin Fields, man. I think that number is a little low for him at 800 and a half for this upcoming season for his rushing yards. Again, last season, like I mentioned, 1,143 rushing yards for the Bears. And I think, when we talk about quarterbacks that their instincts are to take off, if your first or second reads aren't there, Justin Fields fits that mold for this Bears team. We saw his ability to scramble all of last season. And he had games where he had, 20, 30, 40 plus yards of rush attempts just in one scramble. And, when we talk about offenses and quarterbacks like him, he's going to get out of the pocket and try to make a player try to throw the ball down the field. If it's not there, he's going to take off with his legs. And again, those little 5 to 7 yard rushes all add up throughout the season. And again, this was something that we discussed at volumes on Justin Fields last season. And I think this number is still too low for Justin Fields. So my best bet, Justin Fields over 800 and a half rushing yards for the Chicago Bears for this upcoming season. All right, gentlemen, that is going to do it. We are officially at the halfway point, 4 divisions down, 4 more to go for the Propcast for our season-long player props. Chris, anything else we want to mention before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Another honor, another pleasure doing the show with you guys. I enjoyed it. I thought we would have a little bit of disagreement because this division also feels like one of those ones that could kind of go up, kind of go down. But it sounds like we're all kind of aligned. I know it was a couple quarterbacks that we didn't touch on at all. But you know, I thought it was a really good pot. Hopefully, you know, we gave out some winners, and you know, people can cash them for the season long.
Yes, sir. Rod, anything else, my man?
No, sir. Just follow me on X at RJ Villagomez. Find everything I'm up to over there, NASCAR and F1 and Indy and whatever else we got cooking on the network.
Yeah, we'll be back next week to start the second half of our division previews. We'll be back on Monday, so look out for that. Then, again, a good reminder, if you haven't already gone back and listened to the first three division previews, go ahead and do that. We don't go very long. We go about 35 to 45 minutes at max, so you can knock those out while you're working out, driving to work, coming home from work, trying to tune out the kids, whatever you want to do. Just do us a favor and go back and listen to those. And if you haven't already left us a rating and review, do that for us for sure. Like I mentioned, we'll be back next week with another division preview. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. You can follow Chris on Twitter at ChrisBCapping with 2 P's and 2 N's. And again, if you haven't already checked out the Patreon page for the Sports Gambling Podcast, do it and do so. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon. All right, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.